Okay, let's take a look at a few different areas that you should be warming up before you go surfing. So 4 areas that I really like to focus on are the ankles, the hips, the mid-back, and the shoulders. So let's get started. First, for the mid-back, so you're going to assume just kind of a standard normal cat-cow position. And from there, what you're going to do is you're just going to walk the heels back to the butt, and the hands are going to go right in front of the knees. Now, from here, you're going to do a normal cat-cow just like you normally would if you were on all fours, but instead we're going to focus more on the mid-back, the thoracic spine. So what you'll do is you'll just push the ground away from you, just like you would with the cat-cow, and then you'll point the chest up toward the ceiling. And again, push the ground away from you, and then chest goes up toward the ceiling. So this one I really like because this is a position, especially when you're paddling, you really need to be able to pull from that mid-back so that you're able to put the shoulders in the correct position so that they're not taking more stress than they should, and you really put it more through the mid-back. So getting this nice and warm, getting it nice and mobile before you hit the waves is really good to do. Okay, after you have the mid-back warmed up in that direction, we want to start working it a little more into rotation because again, when we're paddling, that's a really important movement for the mid-back to be able to rotate so that, again, these are all designed to take stress off the shoulders. So for that, what you'll do is you'll just be in the side plank position. And from here, so I'm resting on my right elbow. This right hand is going to reach all the way back, and I'm going to try and turn my chest toward the ground. And then you'll come back up, open the book. So these are kind of a modified version of the open book, closed books, which you normally do on your hands and knees, but I feel like you get a lot better rotation through the mid-back. And again, these are awesome to do. So if you think about, if you have a job where you're sitting all day, or even if you're standing all day, but you kind of assume that slouch posture at some point, the mid-back can get really tight. And what happens when your mid-back gets tight, your shoulders start to take on more of the stress that the mid-back should be distributing, but because of the lack of mobility in that region, it might not be doing that so efficiently, so the shoulders start to overcompensate. So I really like getting the mid-back worked out, especially before you go surfing, so that, again, the shoulders a little bit looser, they fire better. Okay, so again, those are our mid-back ones. I'd recommend at least 10 to 12 reps on each side, and then 10 to 12 reps of this guy doing the cat-cow one. Okay, moving to the hips. So think about like the pop-up position. It's pretty much a squat position. So when you're popped up, you're in that squat position. So 2 things we really want to focus on are hips and the ankles. So just starting in a regular squat, if you go all the way bottom down in that squat, and then you support yourself with your hands on the ground, you're just going to start to work the hips and the ankles. Just in a few different planes here. Now the ankles are great to warm up because they have so many little tiny receptors called proprioceptors in them, and those actually give feedback to the brain about where the body is in space so that the brain can make adjustments in the way the muscles are firing to help better stabilize the ankles, the hips, and the rest of the body. So it's important in stability, it's important in balance. That's why I really like getting the ankles nice and warm before surfing. So again, just play around with the different motions you can do in the ankles. You can almost go forward, let the knee dive in. Again, we're warm up the ankles and the hips in this movement. That's why I really like the squat and bottom of the squat before you go surfing. After you're warm here, after you feel pretty good there, I just crank out really good, just about 10 or so really good squats. Get the hips nice and mobile. Again, we want to be able to maintain that nice squat position so that when you pop up, your hips are primed and ready to go, all those muscles are fired. Okay, another one to open up the hips, this is called the triplanar lunge. So you're going to do kind of just a regular forward lunge mobilization like you normally would, except we're going to hit 3 different planes because the hip's a big ball and socket joint. So we want to make sure every part of that ball and socket joint is nice and warm. So from here, this is forward. We're going to turn the hip this way and do that same stretch. So when we turn the foot in this direction, this opens up the hip. We stretch a little bit different part of the muscle, a little different part of the joint as we do that. And then we'll turn it in. So now, if you look, my foot is outside of the knee. We're stretching the hip in that direction. And just about 5 in each direction. I'm going to go ahead and switch. So if you think about sitting all day, our hips are in the opposite direction. They're closed. This is really great for opening them, and all the more important to do it if you are sitting all day. Those tissues are pretty much stressed in that same motion day after day. So it's really, really important that you get these nice and warm before doing anything like surfing that involves use of the hip, use of the shoulders, all that stuff. So it's often, injuries often occur when our body's not prepared for the movement. So we want to make sure that we prepare the body appropriately so that it can adapt and it can perform well in the movements that we want it to. Okay, so those are the hips. Now let's move it to the shoulders. So with the shoulders, a couple of things we want to do. These are called scap circles. So if you think of a cat-cows in this direction, the scap circles we're pretty much doing is we're just doing the portion where we're moving the mid-back and the shoulders. So all I'm doing is dipping my chest down toward the ground, and I'm kind of kissing my shoulder blades together, and then I'm pushing the exact opposite direction. And then once I've gone that way, all I'm going to do is shrug the shoulders up, and then all the way down. All the way up, all the way down. Focus on keeping your elbows as straight as you can. Okay, good. And then finally, after those, we just want to crank out what are called some arm circles or controlled rotations. So with these, all you're going to do is you're going to have the arms out to the side. Do this kneeling, standing, however you like. And because, again, we want to prepare the body for that rotation type of paddling movement, we want to be able to get the shoulders primed for that rotation. So what you're going to do, palms up toward the ceiling or the sky, and you're going to turn the right palm down all the way back as you turn the left palm back toward your backside. So again, palms up toward the ceiling. This one's turning all the way in. My left one's turning all the way out. Now I do the exact opposite motion. Think of wringing a towel with these. So it's almost like we're wringing out the shoulders. Again, this is internal and external rotation for the shoulder. Big movement that we do while we're surfing. So remember, it's not the movement that breaks the body down, it is the movement that the body's not prepared for. So the more prepared you are for the movements that you're doing, the better your body's going to adapt and thrive in those movements. All right, nice work.